Every day, a young girl named Rani walks into the unforgiving heat of the wasteland to collect firewood. She bears the entire weight of her household, chopping and carrying these massive bundles just to afford medicine for her bedridden mother. But her hard work never translates to a living wage. The village is controlled by a wealthy sarpanch, a local chieftain, who runs the economy through pure intimidation. He demands that the poorest villagers, including Rani, deliver his firewood for absolutely no pay. This diagram shows how that extraction rots the entire community. Labor is pulled directly from the bottom tier of villagers, flowing straight to the top node representing the sarpanch. Because he returns zero value back to the workers, a massive deficit forms at the bottom. This forces neighbors to exploit each other just to survive, like Rani's neighbor, Kamala, who only hands over small, highly conditional loans of grain laced with threats of cutoffs. Then, a wild variable enters the system. Deep in the brush, Rani finds a small rabbit. It's severely injured, bleeding heavily, and moments away from dying. In a hyper-transactional environment where every drop of water dictates whether you eat that week, Rani makes a completely irrational choice. She tears a piece of her own clothing to bandage the rabbit and gives it her only drinking water. She demands no payment and expects zero return on her investment. How does an act of absolute, unrewarded selflessness operate within a rigidly exploitative economy? In this universe, it acts as a trigger for an ancient, magical law of cause and effect, one designed to dismantle the entire system. The return on Rani's investment is literal and immediate. While she and her mother sleep, the rabbit uses a hidden magical ability to manifest a massive clay pot filled to the brim with solid gold jewelry right in the middle of their floor. This graphic illustrates a karmic ledger, a universal balance sheet tracking moral debts and credits. The heavy red deficit created by the village's exploitation is instantly crushed by a massive green column of compassion dividends. The magic operates as a strict accounting correction that zeroes out Rani's systemic debt. With her balance sheet corrected, Rani leverages her new capital to buy her freedom. She pays off her aggressive neighbor with a single gold coin and flatly refuses to ever collect another piece of unpaid firewood for the sarpanch. Losing control over his free labor supply terrifies the sarpanch. He dispatches his loyal servant, Ramu, to spy on Rani's house under the cover of night, figure out where this sudden wealth came from, and steal it. But the karmic ledger has an absolute zero-tolerance defense mechanism against greed. The moment Ramu attempts to steal the rabbit and the gold, his body is instantly petrified, turning entirely to solid, immovable stone. The magic actively operates as a lethal security system, systematically neutralizing the enforcers of the corrupt status quo. When the sarpanch realizes he can neither steal the wealth nor comprehend the magic turning his men to stone, he pivots his strategy. Unable to exploit these newly independent women, he decides to utterly destroy them. This chart maps the anatomy of a witch hunt. The sarpanch takes two data points, Rani's sudden wealth and the unexplained stone statues, and funnels them through a node of elite propaganda. He publicly brands Rani and her mother as Dions. A Dion is a term used in South Asian folklore to describe a malevolent witch. The resulting public hysteria engulfs the lower tier of villagers and redirects their vectors against each other. By weaponizing their pre-existing poverty and fear, the sarpanch convinces the village that burning these women alive is the only way to protect their own families. This engineered panic reaches its boiling point by nightfall. A mob of terrified, angry villagers surrounds Rani's small home with blazing torches, ready to commit murder based entirely on fabricated evidence. A corrupt hierarchy is most vulnerable when it can no longer exploit its workers. To maintain the established order, the elite will manufacture fatal violence to suppress anyone who attempts to break free from the economic trap. As the mob closes in, the rabbit steps between the villagers and Rani. It erupts into a blinding flash of golden light, discarding its animal form to reveal a human prince. The prince explains the root of this entire karmic cycle. He was once an arrogant royal who routinely abused his power and mocked those beneath him. For his cruelty, a powerful sage stripped him of his humanity, cursing him to live as a highly vulnerable animal. The curse came with strict parameters. He would remain trapped in that helpless form until a truly destitute person, someone with nothing to spare, offered him pure, unselfish compassion. This diagram visualizes how their two character arcs form a perfect transaction. The prince's arrogance created a massive moral debt, which was finally paid in full by Rani's moral credit. Her compassion cured his curse, and his magic cured her poverty, creating a flawlessly closed system. With his powers restored, the prince hands down the final audit of the village economy. He permanently transforms the Sarpanch and his henchmen into rabbits. It is a punishment of brutal, poetic symmetry. The exploiters who hoarded power and weaponized fear are condemned to permanently experience the exact physical vulnerability of the class they spent their lives preying upon. The karmic ledger of this universe treats radical compassion as the primary driver of systemic change. While the Sarpanch relied on hoarded wealth and manufactured fear to maintain his rule, the system only reset when Rani chose to value a vulnerable life over her own survival.